Props!
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm a singer.
Hi, my name is Peyton, and I'm a dancer.
And today, what are we doing today?
Today, we are back with our very last Kingdom episode ever, where we'll be wrapping up our thoughts, doing a little bit of a reaction, spilling some tea. It'll be fun.
Yes, so this is going to be our last Kingdom-related video ever. Wow, that's weird. But like Peyton said, we're just going to be basically wrapping up the series just to list out in order how this video is going to work. First thing we're going to do is react to the special vocal stage that happened in the finale episode. The next thing we're going to do is spill some tea.
I don't know, that's what we're calling it, but like not really.
Yeah. Basically just talk about some of the thoughts that we've had before and while Kingdom was airing. Some of the controversies that happened, stuff like that.
After that, we're going to fulfill some requests that we got in our finale reaction video comments. So we're going to talk a little bit about things from our perspective that each group could improve upon and also things that they do really well. And then we're also going to give some recommendations for contents for each group for people who may have become fans during Kingdom and not know the groups as well, since we do know all of the groups very well.
So after that, we haven't really talked about any of our favorite performances throughout the show just because we were trying to be unbiased while the competition was going on, not influence too much anyone's opinions. Now we're finally going to talk about it.
And then we'll be done with Kingdom forever.
It's weird.
But before we get started, let's go ahead and give a big round of applause to all of the groups, all of the staff. Everyone did so well, worked so hard. Also, of course, congratulations to STRAYKIDS. As we all know by now, they did win the show. They also worked very hard, so... And now, let's
go! So, the video that we're watching is what we didn't watch last week. The special vocal performance that was done in the finale episode of Kingdom. One member from each group, and it is Eunkwang from BTOB, Donghyuk from iKON, Insang from SF9, Hyunjae from the BOYZ, Seungmin from STRAYKIDS, and Jongho from ATEEZ. The song that they're performing is called 소년의 일기, made specially for Kingdom, which is Boy's Diary. Unlike how we usually react to performances throughout Kingdom, we're not going to be doing any special commentary afterwards. This is just like a special thing and we're just going to be watching it and enjoying it. So yeah,
let's go!
Of course, it's all solo spotlights.
Piano, very sentimental.
Also the more like white blue lighting. I think I saw 꿀 성대, but I'm not sure.
It's purple Oh, I love how they look at their members. They're so proud.
Why can't you just zoom out and show them looking at each other? Me. That's literally what I'm doing right now.
He looks a little fiercer.
Okay.
So far only Mayfly has,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, so they divided that way intentionally.
Kimet's one.
I remember in the pre-release YouTube video.
Are you laughing at me?
A little bit. Oh. It's the oldest members from each of the sub-teams. Oh. Are those actual feathers falling down? Or did they CGI?
I think it's actual.
Oh, that was a nice flip. Oh,
yeah, it's real.
Oh, very tall. The pictures,
why don't you just show it?
Yeah, making me a little giggly, I guess. Oh.
Aww.
And then now they're all together.
Yeah.
So
very
awkwardly long.
like Anna said before we started, we are just really doing that reaction for fun. We're not going to give a lot of comments. We already know how great all of the vocalists are. But obviously, if you do have like specific questions about Anna's thoughts specifically, I guess, about any of their voices or anything they did, like you can leave a comment and she can respond to it. But now we're going to get into some of our more general thoughts on Kingdom, what we've jokingly been called spilling the tea, but it's more just like things that we thought before it started, while it was airing, and thoughts we've discussed after it finished airing. We've had a lot of conversations about Kingdom.
Because it's all that's been on our mind. Yeah. I don't know how to start this.
I don't either. It always feels very awkward.
Do we go in chronological order or?
Yeah, let's go in chronological order.
Just right off the bat, something that made a lot of people apprehensive about Kingdom, I guess, before it started, was how it got delayed and postponed so many times. Because originally Road to Kingdom ended last year, like what? Was it the beginning of June as well? So beginning of June 2020, the way that it had been set up, it was like, oh, so Kingdom is gonna start airing like after only a couple of months max.
Yeah.
And then that didn't happen. And then they had said like, oh, we're gonna wait a few more months because we like need to cast more groups. And then after those few months, they were like, oh yeah, it's not airing in 2020. Yeah. And then they never gave a definite date for it until half a year later.
Even after Mama, they didn't give a definite date for it.
So,
and like the reasons it was getting delayed were very much tied to things that were happening like with the company at the time, which made, I think, a lot of groups hesitant about joining, and then also a lot of fans of groups that were like speculated to be joining hesitant about their faves joining. So that already not starting off great, but it's interesting too because we waited to do this like reaction series since Road to Kingdom. Like we've been planning on doing it, so we stayed very up to date with like all of the articles that were coming out about it. So we watched this whole like process and change. And as it was getting delayed each time, and I feel like as you could tell, they were probably struggling to cast groups, the premise of the show also changed. Because when we finished Road to Kingdom, the idea, like the impression that we were given was Kingdom is going to be about finding like the 4th gen, like the next gen performance leader. Yeah. And so when rumors of groups online were surfacing, it was all like 4th gen idols. Like all like
absolute oldest group would have debuted in 2016. Like, absolute.
That was from all the rumors like insider spill and stuff on like Korean websites and on usually ones that you can trust pretty well. And that made sense because then if you have those groups together, experiences are a lot more similar. So you're getting groups.
It's kind of like equal footing.
Yeah. But as it changed, obviously we see that they had a 6-year difference, like 3 different generations of K-pop ended up being on Kingdom.
Yeah. You're going from like the tail end of 2nd gen into 4th gen.
I don't know. I think you should explain this part.
Because they ended up choosing groups from 3 different generations of K-pop, we said that changed the premise of the show because it went from like finding the next gen performance group into Kingdom Legendary War.
Yeah, the tagline was added. Yeah, that was not originally
there. And initially, if it was all groups from like similar footing, like same gen, the judging criteria would make sense to apply to all of those groups. But based from what we know, like the judging criteria was, that wasn't changed when the cast was expanded to include groups from 3 different generations of K-pop. And when you look at how K-pop has changed, how they're being trained has changed, what their training is focused on has changed, and also like how they perform has changed.
Yeah. I think we can really see that when we hear the feedback from the judges on Kingdom, and a lot of it is about like how they use props and how like the way the dancing was constructed.
Like props
and like the focus is a lot more on like the performance aspect because the current generation of K-pop really focuses on like the performance aspect. And when we're saying this, we're not saying like, oh, old gen is better than new gen. It's just that you can't really compare them. And you can't compare the experience level either.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult to consistently and fairly judge them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like also our perspective on it.
That's true. It's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. And also, when we say performance, like we, as performers with experience, understand that like performance doesn't mean only like dancing and like that sort of staging. It can also mean just like how you're conveying the emotions, like your facials and just like small movements and like singing too in itself.
But the word performance like the way that it's used in Korean.
In the Korean entertainment
performance.
industry, it usually means like how you use your body, like the dancing and like the sort of acrobatics, that kind of stuff.
Especially with 4th gen K-pop.
Yeah, especially with 4th gen.
So again, the premise of the show changed, but
the judging criteria did not.
Yeah, like the focus of the judging didn't.
Which already is like unfair.
Yeah. And like, here's the thing. We know that a lot of people were upset that like who the judges weren't revealed from the beginning.
However, we do understand why they weren't revealed.
Like, I'm thinking about doing like dance, theater, singing, any sort of like competition. Like, you're not supposed to know who the judges are because you don't want a coach or a trainer to interact with them and try to like convince them one way or another.
But also, like, instead of giving like a true performance, if they knew who the evaluators were, they could tailor their performance to specifically the evaluators. Like, oh, I know they like this kind of dancing or these kinds of stunts or this style of music, so I'm going to do only this.
So like, we get it. That was okay to not be transparent, but the criteria not being transparent was the issue that both of us had. Because like, I remember after the first round when they all got their feedback back, and it was first of all, some of the feedback they got back was so subjective, but you could tell that they didn't even know how they were being judged. And that's one thing where whenever I've been in any sort of like performance competition, you might not know who's judging you, but you know what you're being judged on. Like, are you being judged on your costumes? Are you being judged on your technique? How much is each category weighted? Like, that's always something that you're given beforehand. Even if you don't want to cater your performance to a specific judge to do well, you do want to make sure that you're hitting every category. Like, if you're specifically being judged on how fancy your costume is, then you're not going to want to show up in like all black and like no jewelry, no like accessories.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give very generic examples. That one I don't think actually happened in the show. That's why I gave that example.
But yeah. That brings us to our next sort of big point, which was, in terms of the point system, one of the big categories was voting.
Yeah.
Like fan votes. Including fan votes as part of it makes total sense. Like, this is for the fans, you want their participation. Also because when Kingdom was being advertised, they were actually advertising it as like appealing to a more global audience, which
like, if you're going to appeal to a global audience, why
make it more accessible to global fans? Anyways.
But you want to include fans, and so you want to have some way where everyone can participate, like wherever you are in the world, which would be something like streaming. Whoever gets the most streams, that counts into points, but so much of it was tied to
which fandoms can like make the most
mobilize.
Yeah. A lot of stuff to benefit that would be like larger fan base, like having a very good voting system structure in place and being able to communicate that to the entire fandom, and like creating the most Who's Fan voting accounts, and like just having good connection so that the app won't crash on you. So it really just came down to like sort of strategy.
It sort of comes down to size of fandom to begin with, which already puts some groups ahead of others. And so if you're trying to be as fair and have the least amount of controversy as possible, this is literally like building an experiment.
Yeah.
You have to control for that.
Yes.
Yeah,
that was the word I was looking for.
It. If you really want it to be fair, then every group should have the same opportunity to win.
Yes.
And so like one thing we had talked about was, again, this is all our opinion because we spend so much time talking about this show. On Road to Kingdom, the way that they had done it was, I think it was 20, but I don't remember the exact number.
It was 20.
But it was so 20 fans per like group. Like official fan club members were able to view the performances
while they're being filmed.
Then they would vote and rank. And you didn't vote or rank your own group. So then it was an even number of fans for each group, honestly giving their opinion. Because they don't, like, you're not strategizing with other people about like, we should vote for this group, we shouldn't vote for this group. And you had to rank every group that wasn't your own. That's not the only way that you can like even the playing field, but that's one example of evening the playing field. Because also it was weird that you had to like consistently vote for 3 people or 3 groups.
Well,
like
it did go down to 2, and then by the finale it was only 1.
But still.
And even with like the groups voting for other groups who they thought was the best, in Road to Kingdom, it wasn't just the group unanimously votes for who they thought was the #1 performance. It was 6 members from each group.
Because this was the smallest
Yeah,
group,
because the smallest group only had 6 members. So if we were to apply to Kingdom, it would be 4 members from each group would go in and vote. and then they would rank it, not just vote for who they thought was first. They would rank all the performances. I'm about to go full statistics.
Yeah, it's okay. We went to a research school.
Yeah, I don't want to go like full statistics, but basically like having more of those opinions, even like amongst your peers for the idol group members, will make it more accurate because you're having more voices instead of like having to all agree on one singular vote.
Yeah.
It would also equal out point distribution instead of having those really large gaps.
Yeah.
But that's, once again, this is just all of our opinions.
Yeah,
I feel like we're being
talked
really
about.
like hesitant with everything that we're saying,
which is stupid because it's
offend
our
everyone.
But here's our last like sort of big point. I think one of the reasons we spent so much talking about the show is not just because of the channel, but it's because we are so aggressively multi-stan.
As multi-stans and like longtime K-pop fans, between the two of us, even if we didn't super closely follow them, we have known all of these groups since their debut.
And we have followed all of these groups closely at some point. I'm gonna be completely honest, the episodes were really hard to watch, especially like the longer the show went on.
It sucked. I cried.
I cried so many times. I always felt so torn because I wanted to like be so excited for the group. I'm gonna cry right now. I wanted to be so excited for the groups that were doing well, but then the groups that weren't doing well, I was like, I see how hard you're working. Like it's not that your performances aren't paying off. It's just that there's so many
different factors working against all of the groups.
All of them. And then also watching like their tears get exploited.
Oh yeah, exploitation.
I felt like I could see the members being stressed.
Yeah.
And I could see like how anxious they were getting over the show. And then we get things like Peniel on Get Real podcast, or like when Eden was on the radio like talking about it and confirming what I was feeling through the show and like what we feel when we watch it.
Even if there weren't all of those things, just like knowing that they're working really hard on these performances on top of their regular schedules. But then we saw that just made up.
Yeah. And so like that was one reason. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but we had said in our first couple of reactions, like we're going to be more critical because these groups are already established, like they're known for performing, like we can be really nitpicky. And we kind of were at the beginning. And we would like point out things like this should have been better, this should have been better. But as the show went on, like we couldn't bring ourselves to do it. They were already working so hard, and like yes, there will always be things you can improve upon. Like professionals in any field, there's always things you can improve upon. I don't know, I just wanted to hype them up like every week. I just wanted to be like, this was so good.
You're great. You're amazing. Perfect. I was just gonna say, every group went through it and they're like working really hard and they don't want to disappoint their fans, but at the same time, it probably doesn't help that there are some people who are like, call themselves fans, but I don't know if their actions would be considered fans.
Yeah.
Causing tension online.
That also was really awful to watch.
Because they're literally members of the groups that are best friends with each other.
Yeah. Performances aside, because the performances I do enjoy watching, because I'm like, you have worked hard on this, like let's celebrate it. But performances aside, the best episode was the field day episode, because I was like, oh, they're fine, I'm just having fun.
Were they having fun though? Kevin Moon talked about it and he was
That's
like,
true.
in his working thing, he was like, yeah, everyone was really tired, so I was just trying to raise the energy.
So even then, after watching it, I was like,
I guess not. It wasn't fun.
Having fun. Here's the thing though, I don't know what it was about this show, but it felt so much more stressful than Road to Kingdom.
Right?
Like the editing style felt so much more stressful. So we could talk about this forever, but yeah, it was really hard to watch. It's because we're multi-stand, because we like every group and we have biases in every group. And like, even when we say we have biases, like we like all of the members of the groups. But even for like people who aren't fans of every group, like it's hard to watch someone that you support struggle and like go through that.
I think we also like notice a difference because there are a lot of people who watch Kingdom that didn't watch Road to Kingdom. And that contrast was just so large, and like the vibes. The vibes were weird.
The vibes were really weird. If you also watched Road to Kingdom, let us know if you agree. Alright, so
we need to stop.
Yeah, we need to stop. We'll move on to like happier things, I guess. So let's fulfill some commenter requests. We had a couple of requests that we thought were really interesting in the comment section last week, and we really try every time we get requests to include them or like fulfill them when we can. The first one was if we could just sort of like, I guess, give big points, like now that we've seen the entire season for each group about something that they could improve upon from our perspective as performers, and also something that they do really, really well that we noticed. And again, like these are our opinions given our backgrounds in performance. Like I said earlier, there's always room to like improve in performing. This is what I told Anna yesterday, actually, when we were talking about this. You told me I should include this. When we're talking about something to improve, we're not saying it to hate on any of the groups. Something my dance teacher always told me was you shouldn't be offended when someone gives you a correction because it means they think you're capable of doing better, like they see potential in you. You should be upset when people stop giving you corrections because it means like they don't think you can grow anymore, and you never want to get to that point as a performer because there's really always something else you can learn or grow and or improve in. That's where we're coming from with this.
We also got the request for any recommendations for non-fans. So like if you're watching Kingdom and you didn't really know this group, but you're kind of interested in them now, do you have like a starting point outside of like their title tracks and music? So basically variety content.
Because the music can be looked up. Although if you're interested in like our favorites of each one, we're happy to answer that in the comments. But...
yeah. So for every single one of these, we're just going to be answering in 선배 to 후배 order. So first up is BTOB.
We'll be completely honest, because BTOB is so like so 선배 and so experienced, it's a lot harder for us to talk about things to improve on for BTOB. But one thing we did talk about was taking in the context of the show that you're on. And like we said earlier, as performers, we understand the word performance means a lot of different things. And yes, BTOB does perform. Like they perform even when they're just standing with a mic and singing a ballad. But because they were on a performance show, and the understanding of the word performance when it's used in Korean is like dancing, acrobatics, that sort of thing. The one thing in hindsight that we were thinking could probably have been a little bit more improved was them actually dancing, because they do dance. Like, it's not that they're incapable of it. Like, they do dance. You can look at especially the earlier songs, but there was a lot of like dancing being done by background dancers and around them. And the point of the show was it was a performance competition. And that also kind of goes back to the whole like what each generation understands as performance, because their generation does understand it the way they do it, but this was aimed at the way it currently
is. The new
is.
generation.
Yeah, that's not even like something to improve.
That's not even a bad thing.
But one of their biggest strengths, honestly, related to what I just talked about improving, is they emote and perform through the tiniest of details, like through tightening of the eyes or like a sigh as they're like ending a phrase. It's just like the tiniest of details they're able to express emotion through, which is really, really impressive. Like, it's very much because they're so experienced. But for Anna,
I mean, obviously their biggest strength is like their voices. But on top of that, it's accessing different voices. So for different styles of singing, those require not only just different vocal techniques, but you're using different muscles and it focuses on like different things, right? Even within one performance, they can access different voices. Like they can access a more pop voice, a rock voice, musical voice, ballad voice, all of those different ones in one performance, and like those different techniques in one performance. And I think that really just comes from like their experience, and they're like constantly learning different ways to improve upon their singing.
But then for recommendation for people that want to get into BTOB outside of their music, so like I specifically said their Knowing Brothers episodes because I like go back and rewatch those. They're like on my list of things to watch when I need a pick-me-up. But like honestly, just in general, any variety show that BTOB has ever been on as a group by themselves, they're very famous to the Korean general public for their variety skills.
iKON is the next group. So what I wrote down for iKON to improve was their blending and their voices. And it's not something that's really like I don't want to say issue, because it's not really for iKON songs, because their style is very like unique and like individualistic. Like all the voices are very unique and they stick out, which works for the iKON sound and the music that they make, the performances they put on. But I kind of really noticed it in the vocal unit performance that they did, where it was more difficult for the voices to blend together because they were so unique and they weren't used to doing that. So that's something that I thought they could have improved upon a little bit. But at the same time, like, it's not really a thing.
But like if they want to try new styles or something.
Yeah, especially with their latest comeback, they've been leaning towards more like softer, more sentimental sounding songs. Having like multiple voices singing at the same time while blending really well would like elevate it even more, I think. But that's also like something that I really focus on. But that really sort of ties into one of their big strengths, which is that their sound and style is so clear. Like if you hear an iKON song, like without knowing it, it would just be like, that's iKON.
Yeah, we talked about that every week. Of iKON's strengths, something that I think we consistently saw through all of their stages is they can engage an audience even through a camera. Like they just have a power when they're performing on stage, and it makes it so fun, and it makes it feel like you're really
at a party with
them.
At
a party, yeah. It feels like you're at a party with them all the time. That's really impressive, because there is something very difficult about engaging past a screen. They have always been able to naturally do that, and their ability to do that has really grown since their like debut. But I mean, they've been doing it since pre-debut. So
for recommended content for new fans, iKON doesn't have as many like variety shows as they do with like survival shows, but we don't want to talk about the survival shows.
That.
We're gonna talk about fun, happy things. So one that I like watch and just like always laugh about is this thing called iKON Rebellious School Trip. You'll get to know some of their like personalities through it. So yeah.
So for SF9, something that I would say like could be improved upon, especially in group choreography moments, is being more together. Like I talked about it a couple of times, especially towards the beginning of the show, we were being a little bit more critical. They just have so many members that when you're doing group choreography, you need to be like a lot more together so that it looks clean. The thing about SF9 is they're very good at showing their individuality. And so I feel like being able to learn how to be like, I don't want to say robotic, but like we talk about like the knife-like choreography. I think if they could do that when the dance calls for it, because there are times when a dance calls for it, it would really increase like the versatility of styles that they could do, because they're very good at highlighting their individual styles, but then there is something to be said about like being able to do group dance well as too.
But talking about SF9's strengths, one thing that we thought was like a big strength of theirs was that they are very self-aware, I guess. That sounds really weird when you say it, but it's like they know what their strengths are as a group, and it was very clear and like very strategic in the way that they were creating their performances and stages every week.
Yes.
So like if you look back at the beginning of the show, a lot of the other groups were doing like storyline stages, very, very clear storyline stages with lots of props and everything. Immediately afterwards, with the Steeler performance, they made it extremely clear with their storyline and the props, but they did it in a style that they're known for. Acting out a lot of it, and also making sure that they're wearing suits. Like the physical. Yeah, it was very, very strategic.
And then for recommendation for content for non-fans, like, or like if you're just getting into SF9, they do have like quite a bit of variety that they've done together, even though most people know SF9 individually as actors. So we definitely wanted to recommend something where they were together. And so they have this thing, and there's 2 seasons of it, but it's called League of SF Legends. It's really fun to watch all of them together, honestly.
Because I feel like a lot of people don't get to see that.
Yeah.
Next group is the boys. So something to improve upon. Peyton just wanted to say something real quick.
Please just point your feet. You've done it before. Please just do it again.
And then
okay.
And then my thing was, honestly, going back to Road to Kingdom, one of the selling points for the boys when we were getting to know them last year
in our series,
and also watching Road to Kingdom, was the whole thing was like every single member can be a center and will be used as a center at some point. And that definitely showed in Road to Kingdom, but it felt like they kind of stopped doing that during Kingdom. To be honest, I was like, oh.
Having that many centers is a selling point. Like the fact they can all pull it off is a selling point.
Yeah, not even just like that each person can pull it off, but also just like, for example, in Reveal, being able to use so many people, like having their own solo moment. I'm thinking about Tenny surrounded by fans.
Like the girls.
Yeah.
And then right after that, Jacob jumps on stage, and then Hyunjae walks you this way, and then Sangyeong walks you this way.
And like, it doesn't feel messy, even though multiple people have been a center. It just makes it that much more impactful when they all like come together and dance together, and it's super synchronized.
But then for a strength, something that we talked about a lot actually was the continual creativity, because from their intro stage in Road to Kingdom to the finale of Kingdom, like every week they were coming up with new ideas that like were creative and people hadn't thought of yet, like other groups hadn't thought of it yet. And then you would actually see them being used by other groups, like incorporated into their stages later. And that's really impressive to be able to come up with that many new things consistently.
And it's good enough that it inspires other groups to use it.
Yeah.
Content recommendations. They're my favorite. They have a good amount of like good content, like funny content. It was first recommended to us last year, so now we will recommend it to others, which are the Mafia games that are on their YouTube channel. They're so silly.
They're so silly. Also, we'll just like shamelessly plug, if you really don't know the boys yet and you're interested in getting to know them, there's this YouTube channel that we know that did a whole series called Who Are the Boys and reacted to a lot of their content. And they're called Very Best React.
Alright, cool. Anyways, moving on. Stray Kids.
So for Stray Kids, something that I think we both feel like can be improved upon is not showing mistakes on your face. Because in live performances, especially in live performances like this, where it's not the same like title track you're promoting every single day, it's a lot of moving parts. Mistakes happen. Like that's something that when you do live theater, whether it's musicals or like just straight dance performances, mistakes happen and you can't let it show on your face. But the Skiz members are such perfectionists. And I understand it. You understand it as well. We're also both perfectionists. The Skiz members are perfectionists. That there were times on the show where something wouldn't go quite right, like the way it had in rehearsal, and you could see it. Like there would be like a or like a flash on their face before they kind of assume character again.
Like a quick eye.
Yeah, or like a what just happened. I think that can be improved upon.
But a really big strength of theirs was they have really good synergy. In terms of like when they really get into a performance and they like make eye contact or just like all locked in, they feed off of each other's energy. Not even just like Han, Jisung, and Changbin rap duo when they're like doing those moments together, but even in like the little dance moments or things like that. Yeah.
When I watch Skiz dance together, I feel like when they're locked into a performance, it's like you can see the little electricity between the members. Like you can see it. And then for content recommendations, Skiz also has a lot of good variety content, but one that we really like is on the M2 YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure. The English name is Finding Skiz. They have 2 seasons of it, but specifically
season 2 from last year.
Hilarious.
It was leading up to the God's Menu promotions. Or was it released at the same time as God's Menu?
I think it was released at the same time.
It was for God's Menu era.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Especially the talent show part.
Oh my god. And then finally, the show's maknae, ATEEZ.
So something that we thought that they could improve upon is that with ATEEZ,
they're just sort of tied together.
Yeah, their strength and something they could improve upon are kind of tied together. I'll just say like we were asking for more variety in their facials because they do have really good facials, but it's become a little bit predictable. And like they kind of poke fun at it on variety shows too. Like it's kind of their brand for Sunny to do like the whole hooded eyes and like looking at you thing, and like Seonghwa to stick out his tongue. But it's kind of pigeonholing them to like only have the same facials.
But that sort of falls into their strength. Like it's really the ATEEZ's stage presence is so powerful. Like you feel it through the camera. It's overwhelming when you see them in person, and when they are doing a performance, they're all in for the whole time. Like they never do a performance where they're not locked in the whole time, and you can see that when you watch their fan cams, that like the character stays up, their facials stay the whole time even when they're not the center of attention. And so when we're asking for more variety in facials, it's just because they're such good performers that like we don't want them to pigeonhole themselves into these like specific sort of roles that like is being created for them. What they're doing is really good already. Like let's
like the example we were giving was like we can't picture them trying to do wave facials. Wave was one of their title tracks.
And like even at the time when they did wave, they said like it's so hard to like smile for 3.5 minutes because we're so used to doing these other facials.
And now that they've been doing those other facials for even longer.
How's wave going, boys?
Oh, but a content recommendation. They have a lot of like little contents that are being done recently, but we wanted to recommend an older one, which is called like their treasure films. It's when they're in Australia, right?
They get left alone.
Yeah. And also we wanted to make sure that we have one that includes Mingi, because all of their recent stuff for variety contents don't have him in it.
And then shameless plug for their individual contents on YouTube, because they all have a specific one that they do, and they have like goals to achieve.
And then finally, the last section where we're going to be talking about our favorite stages and performances, and we're just going to be saying these real quick. If you want to see like what our thoughts on these performances were, all of the reaction videos exist, so you can go back there. First up was our favorite collaboration stages.
And this is really funny because for the collaboration stages, rather than picking one for each like unit, we just said, okay, there were 6. We decided our favorites on our own, and then we were like, okay, why don't we each just pick 2? And then we were consulting with each other and we realized we picked the same collab stages. So one of them that we picked for top 2 was the It's One rap unit, very iconic. And then the other one that we picked was
the Mayfly vocal unit.
Yes, we are a bit of a feedback loop.
Yes.
But now favorite performances by each group. Again, Sunbae to Hubei order. So starting with BTOB.
I feel like to nobody's surprise, it was their Blue Moon stage. From the beginning, I had been asking for a jazzy performance. This was it.
And then my favorite BTOB stage was the show and prove, like the finale performance. It's so beautiful.
Next is iKON.
I really feel like if you watched our reactions, this will be no surprise either, but the Inception stage.
And then my favorite iKON stage was also Inception. Wow, big surprise. It's your turn to say the group name.
SF9.
My favorite SF9 stage was Jealous.
It's also your favorite SF9 title track.
Yes.
And then my favorite SF9 stage was the Move performance. Really belongs in a museum. The lines, the stairs, my god.
Alright, next is the boys.
This is not gonna be a surprise to anyone. My favorite The Boys stage was the Monster performance.
My favorite The Boys stage was their finale that just happened, Kingdom Come.
Stray Kids.
The Deadpool stage. So, Turu and Shimenyu.
Yeah.
That's Menyu.
And then mine was so different. I liked Shin Duru Duru. I also really liked the Deadpool stage.
Last group, ATEEZ.
Answer! Of course! Queen Answer!
Then mine was Wonderland.
So that's it!
Long video.
Long road.
Congratulations if you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations if you made it all the way through Kingdom.
Huge congratulations if you've been with us since Road to Kingdom.
But it's finally over.
Finally.
Thank goodness.
And I really hope that all of the groups get a break. Like, I know they're probably all going to do comebacks to sort of ride the high of the show.
Promote the new songs a little bit.
Yeah. But I hope they get at least a little bit of a break at some point soon. They deserve it. But again, to all of the groups, congratulations. All of your fans are so proud. Just fantastic performances. Like, hard work. But before we say goodbye to Kingdom Forever,
if you still want to talk to us about it, you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram, DM us, add us, whatever you'd like, and we can talk and fangirl.
And we really do thank you all for watching our videos, for all of the support, for being understanding when we had all of our copyright issues, because that was so stressful too. We forgot to talk about how stressful that was. But thank you all. We hope you enjoyed the videos. If you did and want to keep watching us react, please subscribe. And we hope to see you all in the comment sections of future videos, or on Twitter or on Instagram.
I don't know how to end this.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.